Well, let's go back in session now with legal analysis and a Fox News alert of the guilty verdict and life sentence for former New England Patriots player Aaron Hernandez. Jury got a look at surveillance video during the trial, including this piece. Now look closely. It shows Hernandez carrying a gun a few minutes after the murder. And although the weapon was never recovered, the gun maker testified that it was similar to the model used to kill the victim. Joining me now, Dan Schorr, former prosecutor and associate managing director at Kroll, and Jonna Spilborn, former prosecutor and defense attorney. Great to have the both of you here. There's a lot of surveillance video, circumstantial evidence that was used in this case, first-degree murder, convicted. I want to go to another piece now because we just saw in that surveillance video in his own home that showed him carrying what looked to be a gun. Now, in this piece of video, his fiancée, Shayana Jenkins, she is showed hauling a large black trash bag with an outline of a box inside the day after the murder. So here she comes out of the house, and she testified, Dan, under oath, that he asked her, Hernandez asked her to get rid of this.
Right. He told her to get rid of evidence from the home. Her testimony was that he never told her what was in the box and that she never looked in the box, and she covered it up so security camera couldn't really tell the details of the box. Obviously, the prosecution theory is that it was the gun that she was getting rid of. The defense implied that it might have been marijuana that he was concerned would be found if they searched his home. But obviously, the jury went with the prosecution and probably believed that it was the gun that was taken away.
All right. So they never had any eyewitnesses, Jonna, but they did have Hernandez's DNA on a joint, and also there was another piece of DNA on something that's escaping me right now. But nonetheless,
the shell casing.
The shell casing.
Right.
Thank you, Dan. And also there was a shoe print. Listen to this.
A representative from Nike also on the stand. He says Hernandez was wearing Air Jordan Retro 11s in this video right after Lloyd's murder. Impressions from that type of shoe were found at the crime scene. A pair was photographed in Hernandez's closet days after the killing, but the shoes were gone when police went to take them 17 months later.
Important, Jonna?
I think so, because what the jury had here was everything except a depiction of Hernandez shooting the victim himself. They pretty much had it all. Then they had that last-minute bombshell from the defense attorney that, you know what, my client was there, but he didn't pull the trigger.
Was that a mistake?
And I've been thinking about that all morning. I think it was only because the defense attorney had no intention of putting Hernandez on the stand, and if Hernandez could have said, I was there, I saw what happened, I didn't do it, jury might have been swayed by that. But that was just impossible for the defense to do.
It was strange because the defense went to a lot of lengths to argue that the footprint was not belonging to Aaron Hernandez. Wow. And they were somewhat convincing about that. But then at the end, they said he was there. So I guess at the end,
they must have gotten a feel that there was something that was not going to be good for Aaron Hernandez. But then this thing goes on for 6 or 7 days. Right. Usually that signals that maybe he's going to be acquitted. I want to show you something else now, because this was also a piece of video that was showed in court March 19th, showing Aaron Hernandez splashing in the swimming pool with his young daughter less than 12 hours after, well, now killing Odin Lloyd. So look at this. So there he is. This is also all this very nonchalant activity, right, Jonna? Yeah. 12 hours. He was also there with the 2 other accomplices who are also going to be charged in this murder, right?
Yes, and who were charged separately. Their trial is going to happen separately. But I still, you know what's bothering me about this? 7 days, almost 7 days of deliberation. And when the jury comes back after that length of time with a guilty verdict, you either got to say to yourself, what took you so long, or is something wrong here? Well,
they had a lot of evidence to go through, more than 400 pieces, but there is something in Massachusetts called an inquiry into deliberations. Do either of you know what that means?
I think typically what happens is not beyond polling a jury to make sure that they agree with the verdict that they've rendered, especially when you have a case this serious that took so long. You want to make sure that there were no shenanigans going on in the jury deliberation room. It took 7 days, and then all of a sudden they come back with their guilty verdict. You want to make sure there wasn't one holdout that perhaps somebody leaned on, they went online, they read something they weren't supposed to read. You're entitled to gather that information.
And other states don't usually allow that, but Massachusetts does. So if the defense can show one juror really wasn't a part of the guilty verdict, they can overturn it. Although they were all polled in court, and they all said they
I listened
agreed.
to even how they said yes.
Right.
It was very interesting. Thank you so much.